Look, had to get on my grind, ain't got no time to be making excuses. Success in my mind, I hit up Sean when I landed up in Houston. Him and Gentry told me, Ayo G, when you chasing your dreams, gotta take that risk, so I stake my chips, put it all on me. It is what it is, put all the chips all on me, yeah. I don't talk too much, put the money up all on me, yeah. I'ma put 10 bands, 100 bands, millions all on me, yeah. I'ma put 10 bands, 100 bands, millions.
There's no transparency in the payment processing industry. And so hopefully you can answer some of those questions today.
Yeah,
because
sure.
a business owner, I was very deep into it because I had retail stores everywhere. I had big online presence, like huge at the time. And I still didn't understand the industry. And it felt like a bunch of like middlemen, always not really giving me all the information, not ever like giving me full transparency. And you come to find out they're billing you all these extra fees and stuff. This is also, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm sure the industry's changed, but hopefully you can shed some light on the payment processing industry for everyone.
Yep.
So just kind of tell us, who you are, introduce yourself, tell us your background, and maybe how you got into the payment processing space.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, first off, my name's Tristan, right? Half Korean, half Mexican, but I got the Korean last name. Last name's Yoo, spelled Y-O-O. You don't hear it often. But so I'm only 22. I've been in the industry for a little over 2 years. It's a family company. My parents started it. They're co-CEOs, and I've been around the payments pretty much my whole life. Growing up, I kind of knew my dad as, I didn't know what my dad did necessarily, but I called him the credit card guy because that's what he told me to tell everyone, right? So starting in this industry was kind of tough. So first off, kind of what you said, there's so much to it. And what I tell a lot of guys is you'll never know everything because of how often the industry is changing. So when I started, man, I think it was, I won't lie and say like I grew up in poverty or have this crazy come up story, because I grew up wealthy, right? I grew up with a father who had money. I went to private school. My dad always had cars and stuff like that. But where the real learning curve happened was when, as a son, you decide to put that down and say, hey, I'm going to start fending for myself. And then you go through the motions, right?
Did he always want you to be a part of the business, like from early on, or did you have to kind of work your way in there?
He did. So I have an older brother, and my older brother was part of the business. I have an older brother and 2 sisters. He wanted all of us to be part of the company, right? But of course, as a father and a son, we butted heads for a long time. I intentionally got like 9-to-5 jobs just to piss him off, kind of, being a rebellious 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. And so
if that's all you did,
right.
you're doing good.
I think I was okay. Yeah.
Mine was really bad, and a lot of other people's was really bad. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely had my phases, I definitely had my phases with other stuff, but, yeah, so I branched off, did my own thing. I worked at a solar company. I was a server. I worked in the mall. I made protein shakes. All of that stuff I did, just to, at the end of that, cycle, come back and say, I can suck it up. I can work with my family. I can have freedom and make more than the average household, or I can keep this grudge and work a job that I don't want to work hours that I don't want to work, be part of a team that they don't even really care about what happens to me.
Was it a difference on ideas on like where you wanted to be in the company or where you thought the company should go? Like or was it just father, son?
Yeah, the reason why we had our differences was more because when a lot of people shed light on the fact that dads are sometimes their dads aren't successful, or their dads aren't great providers, or their dads are scarce, right? Whatever it is. My dad wasn't any of those things, but because of that, my dad struggled with a lot of the lessons that he needed to know about being a father. So because of that, me and him had our differences, right? Me and him had our differences, him and my brother, him and my sister. we just wanted to go against everything that he said. He had such a firm grip on anything that we wanted pretty much, or wanted to explore, wanted to do. And we kind of just looked at him as this like dictator. So when he offers us work or a position, we say, no, I don't want to work for you, Dad. Like what? Like I already have you at home. Why am I going to leave home and then go to a job where I have to have you again? You know? So those were the main differences. But once you're able to swallow that pride, set your differences aside, and have a real conversation about future, the fact that it's family, you know, you can't be in that space in your relationship for too long. You know, at the end of the day, you're going to realize your family, right? Nothing's more important. So we put that aside. We started working together, and then the real grunt work started happening, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I have an older brother in the industry as well. So my father had his own personal issues going on, right? So a man that I'd seen work for 20 plus years nonstop just kind of dropped out of the company like that. Like he took some time, said, I'm going to deal with my stuff. And about 2 years. And so that being said, he drops a huge company on the shoulders of my 22-year-old brother who was barely learning the industry. And so putting him in that position, I was about 19, maybe 18, coming into the industry. My brother taught me everything from knowing nothing. I mean, the way that I learned was, he said, pull up a chair next to me and just watch everything that I'm doing. So I did. And I watched everything. I went through months of being pretty much an errand boy. And I was making like I remember one of my checks was like $97 for the month, because we get paid monthly. And I went through that for a good 3 to 4 months of making that little money, until I started to finally, slowly, you know, one by one, build network, sign deals, right?
Were you, when you were learning the business, were you planning on going into sales? Like, was that supposed to be
Yeah, so
the
that
role
that
that
was
they wanted you to take?
Yeah, so everybody starts in sales. My brother at the time was running the CEO position, but I started in sales, and so there was no official training, right? My brother kind of just said, pull up a chair, watch what I'm doing, and learn. They didn't teach me sales tactics, closing tactics, prospecting tactics. They didn't even teach me enough about the industry directly to go out there and like prospect businesses. So what they kind of told me was, you know what we do, kind of. Go out and find some business, right? When you set an appointment, come back and let us know and we'll help you close it. So I was like, well, damn, you know, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try. So I tried. I went out. Even then, I set my first appointment ever, and I was excited. And nobody showed up with me to the meeting. So I got stuck in that meeting with a business owner trying to sell them a system that I knew nothing about, which is interesting because that's how I learned the actual system.
That's how everybody learns.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't go to college, right?
No, I did a semester and then I dropped out after that. Yeah. So
You learned more probably in 6 months of just doing all the stuff for the company that, hey, sit here, watch, learn, go to an appointment, go to a sales appointment, than you would ever learn in 4 years of college anyways.
yeah.
You got a crash course all within 6 months.
Yeah, that's what I tell. Well, 2 years later, now I manage a sales team, right? So that's what I tell my guys. I tell them the best way for you to learn is just to go out and do it.
It is. People, myself included, when I was looking at certain things, you think that it's like, oh, I'll never be good at that. Well, if you think about it, it's like, well, I've never done any speaking or podcast. I'm not good on camera. Well, I've never practiced it. I don't really, of course I'm not good, right? And so I think a lot of people feel that same way. It's like, well, you actually get good at doing the thing by actually doing the thing.
Yeah. And I think now that I'm a little bit older, it's not the same as coming out of high school, you know. The biggest difference is I tell people you have to be willing to invest in it, because if not, you're not going to maximize the outputs that you want from it. For example, I have a new agent who I just started him about a little bit over a month ago from Houston, actually. He's my first Houston agent. He came from working in the refineries. He had never had any kind of business job, sales job, anything, right? Nothing. And so it was tough training this guy because, it was like starting from scratch. So I trained him and he invested a month with me. Of course, there's no charges or anything like that. But he moved from Houston to McAllen to live there for a month so that he could shadow, learn how to sell, learn what we do, how to prospect, how to put together pitches, learn everything, right? So a month he went without any kind of pay, nothing. It wasn't even a paid internship. He came out and I said, this is the best way for you to do it. He said, okay. He made the investment of time that he needed to make and the sacrifice of lost income, right? That's going to hopefully multiply by the end of the year to come out and learn. And his first week that I sent him back out to Houston, he signed his first deal. So for him, that was like the sacrifice paid off.
Validation.
Yes. He got to feel what it's like to win in a place that he never thought that he could win.
That's also pretty early on that he'll, getting that little boost like right in the beginning like that is going to give him a lot of confidence moving forward.
Yep.
What, me coming from the business owner side, what's the biggest, I'm not going to call it a scam, but it's kind of from our side, like the biggest scam or the biggest lie that the processing industry, can get over on the business owner on?
There's a lot, right?
There's so many.
There's a lot. But one of the big ones, and I think this applies to any industry, you're going to know this, is if you hear free, run the other way. Nothing's free ever, especially in the processing industry. So a lot of the times, there's a lot of new programs, right, that are out, and we've discussed some of these where, you're offsetting your costs, you're offsetting your processing fees, right? So at the end of the month, the business is paying nothing, right? But your consumers are paying something. So someone's eating a cost. But what other processors will do is they'll present this as free processing or 0% processing. And personally, me being me, I've called out a lot of guys that I've seen doing it. And I tell them like, why are you phrasing it like that? Because that's not how it is, right? Nothing's free, first of all. And second of all, it's not 0%. There's a percentage. It's just the business is offsetting it to someone. So someone's paying it. The cost is coming from somewhere. So that's one of the big ones, because if they're phrasing it as free processing, they're also probably tackling something on the back end, right? That's not connected to the processing. Just an extra fee, some regulatory or some kind of assessment or whatever it is, right? They'll try to make any little extra change anywhere that they can. That's probably one of the bigger ones.
So outside of the credit card processing fee, they're going to charge some other monthly fee. They're going to charge extra interchange fees.
Yeah.
And
yes. Yeah. So a lot of guys like to drag out, so one big thing that a lot of guys do is they'll say, hey, I can drop you down to 1%, right? And of course, as a business owner, you hear 1% while you're averaging 2, 3, whatever. And you're like, well, that's great, right? They'll set it up, but what you don't know is that they mean, I'm going to charge you 1% on top of this extra cost, right? So a lot of people have come to me and they'll say, hey, well, this guy says he's going to get me to 1%. Like, what are you going to do about that? And I'm just like, ask him this question, right? Because with the business owner, it could take forever to explain to them what interchange is, what cost is. So I tell them, just ask them this question. Is that 1% straight up, or is that 2% over my cost? And they're going to give you the real answer, because in no world are you paying 1%.
So how do processors actually make money off the business? Like, where's the margin that most of them make? when they're processing credit cards for a small business owner?
Like we just discussed, a lot of guys will tax in different places. So different processors can make their money in different places. But mainly, I'll give you the structure of our business. We're a partner with a lot of the biggest point of sale companies and a lot of the biggest processing gateways. So what we do is, we kind of put those two together. So where we make all of our money is just on that the interchange fee. So you take the interchange fee and that's your cost. To process that money, we're setting up all those channels, right? All those gateways, the networks. So the acquiring banks and the issuing banks can talk to each other, approve a transaction and say, okay, this is good to go. We're setting all that stuff up. So where we charge is we take that interchange cost and we tackle a small margin on top of it. And you put that together and that's where you get your processing fee. So that's where we make our money. To get equipment, let's say if it's a restaurant and they need a station, they need a handheld for the tables, they need a kitchen display screen, printers. We buy those from the actual direct point of sale companies. And to make the deal even sweeter for the clients, we buy those at cost and then we give them for free to the clients. So let's say a business is opening, they're opening a new restaurant. To cut out that extra overhead from opening a new business, we provide it for free and we make our margins back, we'll say in 2, 3 months, 4 months, dependent on the investment and then dependent on our pricing with the processing fee. So yeah.
If you were a business owner and he's going to sign a contract with a payment processor and he doesn't know anything about it, what should he look for? What should he never agree to on a contract that he's signing, or he or she?
Don't agree to leases.
Okay.
Number one. Don't do long-term contracts because, as we all know, everything's changing. There could always be something else that could help you out later down the road. And if you're on a long-term contract, those are really hard to get out of, especially in payment processing. And again, just going back to, don't sign anything when someone's telling you it's free, because it's never free. You're going to pay a cost. You're just not paying attention to it. So those would probably be the three main ones. So I say contracts are really hard to get out of, mainly because let's say, for example, you have a restaurant again and you sign up with Toast. Toast will take your expected revenue and then 12x that. So they pull out what you're expected to pay in monthly fees and charge you that upfront for your cancellation fee. So, but most people don't know that, right? And I say don't sign leases because a great example is I had a good friend of mine who owns a glass company, right? They do.
And is a lease just so they can get free upfront equipment? Like, why would somebody do a lease? Is that why?
Yeah, a lease is they're being presented cost of equipment, and just for the situation, a Clover station is about $2,000.
Okay.
Right? For one Clover station, that's about $2,000. So they'll be presented that, and then they'll be presented, hey, you don't got to pay that up front if you sign this lease, yada yada yada. So where I was going with the glass guy is that he bought 2 Clover stations, which is about $4,000, but he got on a $400 lease for that equipment for 4 years. So he's paying way more than, $400,000. And, for us to buy him out, it wouldn't make sense for us, because of his revenue. But that's why I say don't sign leases, because do your research on what you're getting before you get it. And it's all public information, especially now with like ChatGPT and all that stuff. I could probably search up right now how much is a Clover station, and it's going to tell me it's about $18.99, right? Don't sign leases because you're going to get screwed most likely.
Walk us through good processing rates and bad processing rates. Like, we can use $100,000. So if a business is doing $100,000, what would they expect? What would be a good rate for them to pay that's fair, that's, has transparent fees in it?
Yeah. So business is doing $100,000 a month. Well, it goes back to a few things. So we can't give it too accurate because we would have to determine and assess like the nature of the business. So a concrete company doing $100,000 a month is going to have a higher cost than a candy shop doing $100,000 a month. Why? It's because the differences in payment acceptance, meaning the types of cards that they're accepting and the way that they're accepting them. So a concrete company is most likely going to be you're dealing with builders, guys who are running Amexes, MasterCards, business cards. The cost on those cards are a lot higher. So for a processor like myself to make any kind of money, I'm going to have to price a little bit higher than what that cost is. And on top of that, most of them are sending out invoices, right? Payment links, invoices, they have them on a recurring plan, whatever it is. Those kinds of transactions being done are also increase the cost of accepting the card, as opposed to a candy shop. I mean, you got any kind of card coming in there, Visa, Master, the average interchange is a lot lower. So someone coming in to price them could price a lot lower than they could price a concrete company. So average interchange, just to give you a short answer, average cost to cards in a business across Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and Amex is 1.8 to 2.2%.
Okay.
Of course, Amex business cards, that gets a little bit higher, probably around 2.5 to 3. Meaning that we're going to have to price higher. But if you have a regular mom and pop shop, a tire shop, whatever, your interchange is probably a little bit lower. So whoever your processor is, you could probably negotiate that with them.
Hey everyone, real quick, I just want to let you know this podcast is 100% independent. No ads, no sponsors, just real. If you're finding value in whatever we're doing here, the biggest help that you can give us is hitting subscribe and sharing this with someone who you think needs to hear it or someone that it will provide value to. That's how we continue to grow. And if you did that, I would really appreciate it.
When you go in and audit a business, or what percentage of businesses out there do you think are getting basically overpaying or getting ripped off? I felt like I was getting ripped off every single month that I paid those guys, because there was just, back then it was really not transparent. I'm sure there's more things to make it transparent today, but credit card processing was like Wild West, and like you had like zero transparency and paper statements and like all these extra fees and other statements that would come after those statements. It was really crazy.
Yeah, so I would say it's not so dependent on the type of business, but it's more so dependent on the ISO. So the independent sales organization, which is what we are, right? The business payment systems, we're considered an ISO. I would say it's more dependent on that because, I mean, I could go to a business and say, hey, your cost is 4%, and then try to charge them 6%, right? But of course, we don't do that. A lot of the times we don't even charge the max that we can charge, because we try to communicate to our customers that we're in it for the longevity of the relationship of our account, right? We want to keep you guys for the long run. So it's more dependent on the company rather than, the small business.
With AI, how is AI coming in, and, what's the possibilities of that, and how is it going to transform, I guess, the credit card processing space, you think?
Yeah, I think it's more just going to enhance everything that we have right now. So from payment acceptance to analytics, KPIs for the businesses, excuse me, even for us, our support. I'm sure from owning a business, you call a 1-800 number, you could be on the phone for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. That's the beauty to having a partner like us, is we do all of that for you. But let's just say, now the AI is coming in, that could even optimize our job, like now we can use AI to automate all of that stuff, build maybe a guide for the AI to answer any kind of questions, right? Give it all the answers, tell it how to answer them. So I think it's more just going to enhance the things that we're doing now rather than, change or transform or take away or anything like that. But I see it coming in and just doing what it's doing right now.
What about crypto? Like, is there any point in time where people would just kind of pay with the crypto wallet on your phone, and that's how payments would happen everywhere? I mean, do you see that happening?
I don't see it coming, full force, but I see it happening. Yeah. I mean, everybody's already asking for all these, different forms of payment, different card acceptances. And it's just, I think we'll get there, but I don't think it'll take over everything else.
Everybody's just so dependent on Visa, MasterCard. It's like a monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but crypto, I don't think it'll take over too much. But yeah, everybody's pretty reliant on Visa and MasterCard because of, I mean, they were the originals. You know, they were the first ones to release credit cards. So it all trails back to that.
How does your company compete with some of the larger payment processing companies out there that have huge advertising budgets and, you know, billion-dollar companies? How do y'all compete with those guys?
I think, so we've been in business for 24, 25 years, right? And it's not for no reason that we've had clients for that long, right? We're doing what we need to do and we're doing it right. But since becoming a leader in the company, I've noticed how my guys go out there and they win, right? Like every day they're winning. One of my guys signed a 17 location franchise on his first week, and that's a huge win. And the reason that is because of the personal touch that they've put on every single business that they talk to.
When a sales guy gets commission on a client, is it ongoing forever where he gets a part of that processing forever?
Yeah, so it's residual income. Of course, our income is dependent on how good the business is doing.
Of course.
Which is another reason why it's good to have a company like ours, because we're incentivized to help that business grow so that, of course, we can make more money, right? And everybody wins. Everyone's happy. So yes, it's recurring. It's residual income, and they will receive payment on all of those accounts until either the business closes or they switch over to someone else.
What if they don't work for you anymore?
Well, that's where it starts to get more personal, right? Dependent on our relationship with whoever the agent is. It's very situational.
So are the agents 1099 or do you have employees also?
They're 1099.
Oh, okay, I got you. So
Yeah.
theoretically, they could be selling for 2, 3, 4 different companies.
Yeah.
And then getting residuals from everybody.
Yeah. If they decided to leave, or, you know, we've had situations where guys have tried to, my father's been doing this for a long time, right? So he shared a lot of his stories with me. We've had some guys that we brought on, made some money, and then they try to go and start their own ISOs.
Yep.
And
then take their clients and say, hey, I can get it to you for a fraction,
Yeah,
a penny cheaper
exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah, so those guys try to actually come back and, you know, without saying any names, sue my father.
Yeah.
They lost, but because of the way my dad cared about these guys, he decided to still pay them their residual income on those accounts, despite them suing him. You know, my dad's a very religious guy, so he felt that it was in their best interest and something that he decided he needs to do for them. So it's very situational, and it's dependent on what we think should happen.
Okay, so there's no set contract. or
No, I
anything
mean,
that
we
says
do-
we're going to pay you forever.
Yeah, we do have a non-compete, but again, a lot of the time my dad will probably just say not to enforce it. You know, if you think you can do better, go ahead and try, but we have a 25-year reputation, so I doubt that you'll outsell us.
What's the highest volume business that you guys process?
So we've had a book of up to about probably like 10,000 merchants, I believe.
Oh.
And I think our biggest, we have two very large ones. So we have a chain of the largest, one of the largest chains of car dealerships throughout Texas. And I think our biggest one is American Steel. So they're one of the biggest steel distributors. They actually are the ones that run and oversee a lot of the other steel companies and all these, you know, events and conferences and stuff. They're the ones that are hosting them and stuff like that. So they do, well, I don't want to say any numbers because I don't want to get in trouble,
Sure.
but they're probably the biggest one that we process. And it's funny actually how that one was obtained. Some of our guys went out to a conference for steel industry, and instead of talking to all the business owners, they went straight for the guys that were hosting the conference, and they talked to them. They got their way in, and they were able to make a deal happen, and they worked it out from there. So I would say that that's probably our biggest processing client.
So overall volume, not just one client, is it in the high hundreds of millions, or is it in the
Oh,
billions?
yeah.
Is it in the billions that you process?
Yeah, no, I would probably say it's in the high 800.
Million.
Yeah, I would say probably high 900 million because
So y'all are approaching $1 billion.
yeah, because in this last year we've signed a lot of very large clients, and excuse me, it's been thanks to the San Antonio market. We're based out of McAllen, but one of our biggest producers, he's in Florida, so he's the only one there. So he's kind of the king of that whole domain right now. And then we got some guys in California and in some other places. Now we're starting to try to reach Canada, and we're starting Mexico. But I would say that San Antonio market has been very good to us this year because of the network that we've been able to build here. It's been, to get deals in this industry, you have to prospect, right? Door to door. That's the grunt work. But to be completely honest, since we got here about a year ago, I don't think I've prospected like a day since January, probably. Everything's been network, referral, thanks to a lot of bigger names that we've been building relationships with.
If a business owner wanted to know if they were getting a bad deal or not, and they wanted to audit, their payment system, what would be the thing to look for? What would be the first step? Like, how could they know that they're getting overcharged in fees, or they're getting, screwed in a lease? Like, what are the things that they could look for to know? Or do they have to hire somebody like you to come in and...
I would say to talk to someone that you know that has a business that's had a good experience with the payment processor. 'Cause if they've had a good experience and they're actually vouching for that guy, it means that guy's really good.
I think a lot of people don't know their fees, though, as
Yeah.
a business owner. I truly, I think they go, oh yeah, I'm paying, 2.5% or whatever the number is, but they don't know all of the fees and everything else that goes on their statement. So you have no idea their overall processing rate.
Yeah. So a thing that I would tell all business owners to do, and I do tell business owners to do, because what we do is we take statements and we throw them in our AI analysis, and it gives us every number broken down.
Because you have
right?
AI now too.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but the easy way to do it is just, I tell business owners, you don't even have to send me a statement. Just, you get your statement, you look at it, you look at total fees paid, grab that number, divide it by total amount submitted, times 100, and you're going to get your exact effective rate.
Yeah. And that's what people need to realize, as don't let somebody come in and sell you and say, hey, it's 2.5%, whatever the number is. It's like the effective rate is what they need to look for.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's pretty simple, really easy. It's just quick math. I would say if you're looking to find out what your exact rate is, do that. But if you're looking to switch, if you're having a bad experience and you're looking to switch, don't go direct to like the corporate companies like Toast, Square, because you're just a number there. They don't really care about you, right? They give you a product and say, this is our product. I don't really care what your business is, figure it out, right? As opposed to if you were to go and talk to one of your buddies that has a business and they have a good experience with someone, talk to that person, right? Talk to that person, try to find out how you can get set up, how they can best help you, and see if it's a good fit. If it's not a good fit, keep looking around, because you'll find someone that's going to give you a tailored solution for your business. If it's someone that's really wanting to work for you and for your business, they're going to make sure that it fits like a puzzle piece, right? Whether it's a restaurant, they need inventory and they need a hot and a cold kitchen printer, right? Two different ones. They need payroll. They need a time clock for their employees to clock in and clock out, right? It's the ISO's job to find those problems and to find solutions and to make sure that you're using those, as seamlessly as you possibly can. So I would say look for someone, find that person, talk to them, see if it's a fit, and execute from there.
Is your dad completely out of the picture now, or is you and
No,
your brother running the company, or is he back?
So my brother decided to take a step down actually after running the show for so long. So he's just an agent now because he's doing dual roles. So with another company, he's also a chief technology officer. And so my father stepped back up, got back on the horse and said, I'm good now. Let's get to it. So he's leading the pack right now. This year has been insane for us in terms of growth, because to be honest, our company's always been reliable in terms that we can get the job done. We know what we're doing. We'll get you the solution. But in terms of internal organization, it was kind of a mess, right? We didn't have teams. We didn't have anything. It was just 60, 70 sales agents and one accountant. So managing all these different residuals, all this different stuff. But this year's been huge for us. It's the first year in 25 years that we've gotten a CRM. We now have a CXO, so an experience officer. We now have about 7 or 8 senior partners, including me, who each are managing their own team. I am the youngest senior partner, and ironically, I have the biggest team. So I manage about 8 or 9 people, and the rest about 3 to 5. So we broke out into teams. That way we can build layers of support. The agents can communicate to us. We can communicate to our leadership. And from then, if we need to bring the CEO into it, bring him into it. But he's back on the horse. He's trying to figure out more ways for BPS to grow in terms of sales, team operations, and even acquiring other portfolios, other people's portfolios. And we're trying to build data analytics for our EBITDA, because right now we had none to show what our company's worth. So yeah, he's back in the picture. He's on the horse, and he's leading us.
Where do you see the future going? What's your role in the future company? Are you going to try to run the company, or what's?
Man, I hope I hope he trusts me with that. Right now, I'm glad that he trusted me enough to become a senior partner. One thing that me and him have had a lot of conversations about is that he doesn't want to show any signs of nepotism, and I don't want to be on the receiving side of any nepotism. I've told him the same thing. I don't want to be a leader if I haven't earned it, because I'm going to just end up leading them to nowhere. So once you think that I've earned it, I'll do my best to step up. So he chose me to be senior partner. That's where I am right now. We're kind of like a council. And I'm hoping to one day be up there with him, right? I'm not there yet. Still pretty inexperienced and have a lot to learn in terms of business. But I'm hoping that he trusts me enough one day to help lead the company.
I would be the same way with my son. Would be extremely hard, and I would not give him anything, which we don't now, but I'm really nervous about him growing up with his hand out, and so
Right.
he's not getting anything. And if I do have a business at the time, he would do the same thing that you're doing. Like, you work your way up, you learn every single job, and you prove that you're better than everybody.
Right.
And if you're not going to run the company.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've been proving yourself for a while, and you've been I think also when you've been doing something for a long period of time as a entrepreneur, if your dad started 25 years ago, you need some younger person that is going to understand AI, is going to understand like where all of social media is going, like where all the technology is going. And sometimes when you're running a business and you're that old, like, you, without that young blood in there, I think you would get passed up by a lot of companies.
Yeah.
And so, not that he wouldn't want to learn anything new, but I think as you get older, I just know this from experience, it's like, you have so much going on, you only have a certain amount of time to do stuff. And so you're growing up in it, and so is, your brother. And so I think it's just beneficial. I think it's an added bonus to have like that young blood in there that's going to come in and take the company to probably a whole new level that he may not even ever been able to do.
Yeah, and I think the more important part about having family in this is that I've always seen the company as if it was my own. I cut out the mental obligation of thinking that I deserve to get paid because I'm the owner's son, but I kept the obligated responsibility of trying to scale, because this is my family's bread and butter. This is our lifeline,
Hey everyone, real quick, I just want to let you know this podcast is 100% independent. No ads, no sponsors, just real. If you're finding value in whatever we're doing here, the biggest help that you can give us is hitting subscribe and sharing this with someone who you think needs to hear it or someone that it will provide value to. That's how we continue to grow. And if you did that, I would really appreciate it.
Dad and your dad, 25 years is a long time to be in business.
Yeah, and I tell him that, well, I train my guys to look at it as it's their company too. Because as you know, the best people to have work for you, in my experience, are people that treat it like as if it's their own.
Yeah. And it's hard to find.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part is labor. Hardest part is running a company is finding the right people and the labor to execute on,
Yeah.
on your vision and your ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we run through tons of people that say they want to do it, and they say that they want to do it just for one deal, and then they want the residual on that one deal and never show up again, right? So we've set things in place to kind of cut through that, but which is difficult because they're 1099s. But yeah, I think keeping the obligated responsibility mentality that I have to scale this because my mom relies on it. My sister relies on it. My other sister relies on it. Me and my father, our income comes from this as well. And so I look at it like that. I look at it as, of course, we have our splits, right? I make X percentage and BPS makes the other X percentage, but really BPS is us. So I look at it as everything that I do is growing my new family that I'm starting, and it's supporting the family that I already have, right? So yeah, I think I love being in this corner. I'll always look at it and want to scale it as if it were my own because that's how I view it. But I've loved the journey of building up to the expectation of what my last name is, right? A lot of people set a high expectation because if you meet my dad, you'll love him. In the Valley, everybody pretty much knows who he is, which the Valley is McAllen, Texas. And so there's a very high bar for our last name. People expect a lot out of us. And I couldn't offer what people expected 2 years ago, but after building and putting my head down for so long and saying, I'm going to hit this by the end of the year and executing that, it's demanded a little bit more respect. And so I've loved that process and that journey rather than if my dad would have just said, here's $10,000 worth of an account, go feed your wife.
That's what creates that entitlement. And then you have to, it's almost like you have to have the struggle to appreciate everything and also learn. Like whenever you're doing it yourself and you're not handed anything, that's how you learn the fastest. That's how you become, the best. And so it sounds like for your age, you're already killing it. And, you've learned a ton more just by doing the things you've done than someone else that had maybe gone to school and is just now starting out on trying to get a job somewhere. It's like you already have so much life experience and business experience by actually, doing it.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I learned was, and I'm sure a lot of people learn it, is that usually making the hard decisions is good. Those are going to be the best decisions. So for me, I know I spoke a little bit about my dad, grew up wealthy. Man, when I was a kid, I had a credit card that was like unlimited. To a kid, that thing's unlimited when it comes from your parents and if they have money, right? And I'm sad to say, but I had that credit card until I was like 18 or 19, and I was relying on that. And man, I was living good, but I was lazy, didn't have a job. I was going to bed at 2 a.m. and waking up at 2 p.m. And
if you're a kid that wants to hang out with your friends, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Like if you have the ability to, right, and you don't have to work, that's what people do.
Yeah, and it made it harder for me to want to build a life for myself because what could you possibly want to strive for if you have everything? And so it was until the day that I sat with my parents and I whipped out my wallet, pulled out the card, and I just slid it across to them and I said, that's it. I'm going to do it now. And this wasn't even until a few years ago. I said, I'm going to do it now. Let me struggle. And they said, okay, we're going to let you struggle, which I'm glad they did because I went from...
So that's a hard decision for you to even make for yourself at that age. So congratulations. I mean, not many people would do that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, man, it was tough. But, a big part of it too was meeting my now wife. When I met her, I was like, it as a man, it plays in your head, like, who am I if I can't provide for her, if I'm relying on my parents, or
Yeah.
I can't give her this or that. And, it was huge, but they let me struggle. So I went from having everything, having, nice cars and rent-free place and unlimited food, shopping, whatever, to barely affording my rent. In my first apartment, I had 2 of those metal party chairs and a box in the kitchen. And I ate eggs probably like 3 times a day for like 6 months because that's all I could afford. But I was saving and I was building. And so I had set a goal. This was a few years back. I had set a goal at the beginning of the year, or I'm sorry, it was in November. That November of that year, and I said, I'm gonna 10x my income by this time next year. And sure enough, I passed it. So I was making maybe a little bit less than $1,000 a month. And by that next November I think I had hit like 16,000 or something like that a month. So I had surpassed my income. Now I could get away from the metal party chairs, the eggs, the plastic plates, the cardboard box. And that win did more for me than anything else that my parents could have given me. But they gave me that opportunity to do that, which was probably more important than anything that they've ever done for me.
That's a really cool story. Well, I think the information that you provided today, number one, will provide a business owner a little bit more transparency. Hopefully they can make the right decision on processing, because it is a really weird, non-transparent industry. So, but I think you also provided some pretty inspirational stuff that somebody could take, especially, even if it's a parent that listening to you tell your story, it's like, you probably shouldn't give your kid unlimited credit card because you're not doing anything for them.
Yeah.
They don't have to struggle. Like you said, you're lazy, you're hanging out with your friends, just staying out till 3 o'clock in the morning. You would do what a normal teenager would do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if a parent's listening, that not to be, what's it called, an enabler, not to be, not to enable the kid. And I'm extremely worried about that. And so I'm probably too far the other way. Like, he's getting nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, and I try to make him earn everything because I'm scared. It's like, he's growing up with a different life. He didn't have to struggle. Me and my wife did. And I don't want him to grow up to be entitled, because I know he'll have a regretful life. Because if you don't have to struggle and you have nothing to work for, you're not going to have any fulfillment. You're not going to enjoy waking up every day to go do whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, and it's everyone that I've talked to that's successful has had a come up story, because they had to fight for what they wanted. They had to build, they had to grow. They forced themselves into better habits that they were in before. And that's the best way to do it. And I believe it should be the only way to do it. Like you, a father, my son's on the way, and that's all I'm thinking about now is how hard my life was, but not because I didn't have anything, but because I had everything. And I don't want him to have that same problem, but I also want him to know that you have that.
It's hard. I think that you can take care of people,
Right.
but also have discipline and not create entitlement. Like you said, it's like unlimited anything. Like, there's no way that's good for anybody, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a fine line. Like, of course you want to give your kids stuff and you want to give them a life that you didn't have, but you also don't want them to be in the situation that you got into later in life. It's like, look at me, I'm lazy. I don't really do anything. I have everything I want, but you weren't happy.
Right.
It's like you're missing something. And so
Yeah.
I think that that's what people don't understand they're doing to their kids when they just take care of them too much, make them too entitled, enable them just to do whatever they want.
Yeah, and I think during the phase that I had where I was being very rebellious and like we said, lazy and not wanting to work and stuff, I will give the props there to my father for instilling in me a lot of principles while I was young about how to be a man properly, right? He did, obviously spoil us a lot and make our lives pretty easy, but he instilled certain strong principles about what a man is, not just by, directly teaching us, but by showing us. He was a provider, he was a protector. A lesson that my dad taught me very young that stayed with me forever was that there's two kind of men in the world. There's a predator and there's a protector. And he said, always be a protector. You look at anyone and you classify them as a predator or protector by the way that they behave or the way that they respond to decisions. And that stayed with me for a long time. So if it weren't for those lessons that he instilled in me as a child, I don't think that I would have been able to pull myself out of that, laziness, that being a slob, those are what really helped me pull myself up and say, okay, this, obviously my father was able to do it. I have the strength to do it. I know how to do it. He laid a roadmap on how to be successful, how to be a businessman, how to be a husband, how to be a father. And so I just got to follow it and do the work. And what could, really go wrong, right? Just got to take the jump, then do it. So.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Super inspirational. Really proud of you.
Appreciate it.
You got a long, long road ahead of you, I'm sure, of success. And then congratulations, too, on
Thank you. I appreciate
your
it.
new family.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Awesome, man. Thank you.